Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Finally.
The Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast.
Who's come back? Give me a hell yeah.
Welcome everybody back to another episode. Yes, another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Burrows, as always. And as always, I am joined by my illustrious friend and co-host and tag team partner, Mr. Adam Cousins. Adam, how are you, brother? We do this all again, mate.
We are. We seem to be doing it more regularly. And I am repping the merch.
Yes, we've got some. Friend. Yeah, he's sitting in the dark. Well, you know, there might be a power cut down where Adam lives.
Hey,
he's you know, don't pay the bills. Don't pay the bills.
Is the black version of that. You know. But hey,
hang on, everyone's froze. Hold up,
what
everyone's,
can I say?
Everyone's froze.
Everyone's froze. We're fine.
Yeah, but it keeps cutting in and out. Yeah, I didn't hear a word you just said, Abs.
I was saying that there's a black background. I'm in a black and grey shirt. It's black.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Wi-Fi. I've got a hamster running around my wheel for the Wi-Fi. But Adam, we've had another amazing guest join us today to talk all things professional wrestling and professional darts. We like to mix it up in here, mate. Why don't you tell us who our guest is today?
Yeah, well, if you remember, Andy, when you first asked me to be a co-host, I gave you a list of a few names that wrestling personalities and non-wrestling personalities that I wanted on. And this was one of them because I knew from the PDC, Professional Darts Corporation, that he was into his wrestling. He was actually, speaking of here, he actually was a wrestler for a brief period of time. I know he trained in MMA. But the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast is about to be run wild with Edgar Mania as we welcome professional darts player and coach Matthew Edgar to the show. Matthew, welcome.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, great to be here. Great build-up as well. I wondered who you was talking about when you said you've got a great guest on. I thought, who else is on here today? And then you started talking about backgrounds. I thought, oh no, I've got the missus's horses up in the background here. So I thought I'm going to be right out of place. But no, I'm looking forward to this.
No. So honestly, Matt, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, mate. Just tell us briefly how you got into the love of wrestling. We ask all our guests how they got into it. I get it all the time. Oh, you still watch wrestling? It's like, yes, I watched it as a kid. I got into it during the 80s and 90s. How did you first get into to wrestling, mate? And for the love of it you have now?
I got into it the same story that I think every lifelong wrestling fan has, which was as a child, I started watching it in the days of the Ultimate Warrior, the Macho Man, Hulk Hogan. I remember walking down to the market and buying an Ultimate Warrior Hasbro figure for 50 pence.
Do you know how much they're worth now, Matt?
I've got them all carded, so I know what they're worth.
Oh, mate, if darts doesn't work out for you, Matt, you're going to be a very rich man.
Yeah, I've got I'm missing a couple of the green cards, but I've got most of the Hasbros on card. And yeah, they're certainly not 50p anymore, are they?
No, mate, you are going to be a very rich man.
So, it was with that and just the joy of it, you know. SummerSlam 92, one of my early memories of
I was there.
Wrestling.
I had hair.
I was there, yeah. I was row 10 for that.
I'm jealous straight away. I was
of Adam having hair or me being at SummerSlam?
SummerSlam, because my version of SummerSlam's not as glamorous. Mine was trying to convince the babysitter I wasn't tired so I could watch the rest of SummerSlam.
Yes.
And you know that bit where you're like, I'm not tired. When they took you to bed, that was my SummerSlam, so not row 10. But I did go to Clash of the Castle. That was my one for that. I said I had to go to Clash at the Castle because I felt like it might have been our era's SummerSlam. The next big sort of thing from there. But that was my story. And, you know, Legion of Doom, I had the shoulder pads, went to Sheffield Arena and watched it in 93. And I've just been going ever since. Every time I think I stop watching wrestling, and I do for a period of time, because as things get busy, sometimes you'll miss certain blocks of it. And then you'll just click on YouTube and you'll see something and you go, oh, I'll just have a look at that. Then you follow that story. And before you know it, you're watching it again. You just cannot get away from wrestling. I think once you're a fan, you're always a fan.
Yeah, no, you are. We also ask all our guests, Matt, what do you think of the current product?
I think it's different, but it has to be different. The world's different. We don't live in the world we used to live in. Let's go back to the Hasbro wrestling figures. If my shop in my town didn't sell Hasbro wrestling figures, I didn't get wrestling figures. If I went to a different town, the first thing I'd do is go, is there a toy shop here? And do they sell wrestling figures? Nowadays, if I want a Brock Lesnar, I go on Amazon and it arrives at my door the next morning. It's so accessible now, and we didn't have that accessibility, but that also is part of what the challenge is, because the people that are running it have also evolved with this as well over time, and they've gone through this evolution. So I always thought there'd be a transitional period, but right now it looks like we've come out of that transitional period and we're getting what is a great product, because we've gone of the days of the smart wrestling fan almost being against the WWE, and the WWE, remember the Triple H thing when he came out and he's, my mate Mark's going to cancel the WWE network, and that interview he gave in the ring, and it was almost like a them and us, and now it's sort of like well, it's okay for you to cheer the bad guy, where before it'd be like you're trying to trash the product by cheering the bad guy. And it's sort of like evolving now, where it's like, okay, if that's what you want to see, that's what we're going to give you. You're going to get what you want to see now, where we went through a period of time where it's like, you want this, do you? Well, we're not going to give it to you. Remember the Shattered Dreams, Daniel Bryan at Royal Rumble?
Oh, my God, yeah. No, yeah, very much so, very much so. Adam, go on, mate.
So, Matt, when I was talking, I was looking at when we finally got you on and we was going to and fro, I was sort of looking at similarities between darts and wrestling, and people always say to me, what the fuck are you talking about? It's two different products. And it is, but there is one similarity, which is schedules. So I'm going to sort of go back a little bit myself, that I've been a dart fan just as long as I've been a wrestling fan. So News of the World, BDO, then it moved over to Sky, and obviously went into WDC, and now, whereas we know it as the PDC. Yeah. And obviously we had the 20 years of Phil Taylor or whatever dominance, and now there's literally the top 20 in the world can easily go on and win a major tournament. That's how close it is now. There's no sort of major, favorite of them. Well, Van Gerwen's still the favorite, but there's plenty more people that can win it. But
Gilding.
Exactly.
They opened recently, world number 41.
Yeah, Andrew Gilding. Yeah, he won the player. Was it? What was it?
UK
Open. Okay.
UK Open.
Yes, he won the UK Open. So, but the point I was getting at is when Sky kind of grabbed it by the balls, the presentation of darts was always a couple of fat guys getting pissed, having a fag, and throwing a dart. But when Sky done it, it's now this kind of global thing, just like the WWE, in that you have like 20 or 30 players championships. You have the Euro Tour qualifiers, the Euro Tours, the majors, Dubai Classic. We used to have Dubai Desert Classic. Now it's a Dubai. They go back to Dubai. They go to the States. They go to Australia, New Zealand. So a bit like the WWE, you're kind of on tour for those sort of 2 years that you have the tour card, as long as you qualify for the event. So how I see it is the actual scheduling is quite on par with what they do. So how do you adjust your lifestyle to go around to that? Because I've seen photos of like Michael Smith and Van Gerwen having Chineses at like 11 o'clock at night, because that's the time you've sort of had your event, you've calmed down, you've done whatever you do backstage, you've done all your press, and you go. So how do you change your lifestyle to go onto that, and B, what kind of changes you have to make to your diet to ensure that you don't? Because obviously now it is about a bit more of having that physique or having that ability to be able to throw that on that stage for up to an hour and a half, really.
Yeah, if you think about what food does, it's our fuel. So, like you mentioned, you're sometimes eating, and most of the time when you're away, you're eating terrible food because that's what's available to you. It's not just the towns and things we play in, it's the transitions between those towns and locations as well, especially when we're doing a tour. So if we're doing a tour, we might be in one town and then we're 2-3 hours down the road, and you're at 2-3 o'clock in the morning transitioning between locations. What you're going to eat at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, you're going to find a 24-hour drive through McDonald's, and that's what you're going to have. And you're going to be eating that 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So with that, you're not going to be getting the nutrition, but at the same time, your body's not going to be getting the rest and the sleep it needs because you're still digesting that food. So it's a very, very hard lifestyle in terms of being on the road. I've done it for 11 years, and that's why I'm really enjoying this year, where I've sort of stepped back from it a little bit to do other commitments. And it's the things that you see behind, because a lot of times, same with football, people go, well, you're only working for 90 minutes a week, but it's the lifestyle that you mentioned. That comes first. When you get your diary, as I don't want to say as a normal person, and it sounds terrible, but you know what I mean. As a normal civilian person, what you'll do is you'll get your diary at the start of the year. You'll go, right, that's Mum's birthday, that's my son's birthday, that's Valentine's Day, that's this, that's a whole, and you do it that way, and then you go, right, we'll work around those. Where with this, what you do is you go, right, Pro Tour, Euro Tour, exhibition, and then you go, oh, that links into my son's birthday, so we'll have to have my son's birthday a week early, and we'll have to do that. And what you end up doing is you commit to all that first, and then what's left is for everybody else. Where in normal life, what you do is the other way around. You have all your family and all your commitments, like your home life, comes first, and then everything goes around that. And it's just completely flipping that around. And yeah, it can be a lonely lifestyle, you know, unless you've got someone to buddy up with. I buddied up quite a bit with Ryan Searle when I was on the tour, and unless you've got that, a lot of the time you're in your car on your own, in the airport on your own, you're traveling on your own, you're in the hotel on your own. The only time you ever see people is when you go to the venue to actually play against them. And that's when they're your competitors. They're not meant to be your friends. And the tour is an exclusive club of 128 players. So you see the same people all the time. And yeah, it does get quite tricky to manage that time. It's probably one of the loneliest jobs I think I could ever advise anybody on. But at the same time, the highs are so high that you just can't help but keep doing it.
That sounds very much like wrestling. If you think like the people that are grafted on the independents, say for argument's sake, you know, you go back years in like Daniel Bryan and, you know, everyone, there's not many wrestlers that are in the WWE now that haven't been an independent wrestler. And it probably was very lonely. You've only got to go and read like some of their books, and they wrestled in front of 10 people, you know, wrestled in front of 15 people. You probably played darts in front of like 30 people, 40 people. And then a couple of years later, you're like, hang on a minute, there's like 2,000 people in this arena, you know, and you're playing on a bigger stage. So the equivalents to darts and wrestling from that side of it are so similar, because, you know, you could be in a bingo hall on 1 week and 2 months later you're playing at, you know, like a Wembley Arena or something like that. It's over the equivalent of wrestlers just going to that big stage. But Matt, while we're talking about wrestling, you used to be a wrestler. This is a guy that could do everything. I mean, was the wrestling before darts? Were you doing it while you're playing darts? How on earth and why did you get into wrestling?
I'm one of those people that if I have something in my mind that I want to do it, I have to do it. Life's too short to not do something. If you want to do it, do it. And that's the biggest advice I give to anybody. If there's something you want to do, just do it, because time will pass you by. COVID taught us that. I always said I want to go WrestleMania, and every year it comes around like I'm going WrestleMania. I've now booked it for next year because I keep saying I'm going to do it, and COVID taught me actually there's no guarantee that WrestleMania is going to happen next year. There's no guarantee of tomorrow. So with that, let's take it today. And that's the way I sort of live with everything. And I got to a point where I transitioned out of junior darts, where I was one of the best players in the country, and I was playing like in the Junior World Championships at the time, and I won the English Nationals as a youth under 18. And then I had to transition into the men's. And the jump between the youth to the men's isn't like it is nowadays. Nowadays, there's such a fantastic system that picks children up from 12 years old and gives them a pathway. We didn't have that pathway. We was, oh, if you're good enough, go. That was pretty much what we had. And at the time, I wasn't good enough. And I thought, well, I kind of wanted to do a bit of wrestling. And I noticed that there was a promotion not too far away from me. And at the time, Sky had just invented the wrestling channel. Many years ago, which had things like the FWA and things on it. And the FWA had an academy based down in Portsmouth. And I was like, this is getting quite intriguing, actually. I didn't even think that wrestling was accessible to us in the UK. I'm going to go and give it a go. And I went along to a weekend training camp, loved it. And I was like, right. It was Mark Sloan was the head coach at the time. And I was like, he was so inspiring. And with what he was doing, and then he was working at the time with people like AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Christopher Daniels. They was all over quite a lot. Bret Hart did a seminar down at the FWA Academy, and I was like, I was training. My training guy, who we buddied up when we was down there, so we'd go for runs in the morning. Was a guy who's gone on to now be Pac, and
Neville,
yes,
bastard now in AEW.
Yes. Yeah, so he was someone I was trained with there, and it's quite an interesting story, like when you see it all pan out. But I was like, right, now I've got to get in the gym. And then I was getting in the gym and I was training. I just loved it. And I embraced that lifestyle for about sort of 5 years. I just really enjoyed everything about it. But then in 2011, I qualified for a TV tournament on Sky Sports. I got quite far in that. And then off the back of that, I was offered the opportunity to basically go on the worldwide tour. So I was in Canada the next week, Chicago a week after that. And I was like, I can't really risk injury by continuing to do the wrestling. So in 2011, I did a loser retires match, which I took nothing. It was like a 2v1 match. I had someone go in there and do all the bumps for me. I come in and took a roll-up pin. It was the most pathetic way to end that ever, and I've regretted it ever since. And I watch it. And the thing is, once you've wrestled, and anyone who has done this will relate to, is you then watch it through different eyes. You watch it through an eyes of a processing, and then you think like, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I do this? If I was still wrestling, I'd do this. I've probably wrote in my head about 30 different matches and so many different spots. Or that would be a great ending, or this would be a great story that I could tell. And there's so many amazing stories that you think of that, because I think we all do it, don't we? Wrestling fans, like when your life goes a certain direction, you start thinking about how this could make a good story in wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've got about 30 different versions of it so far.
What was your wrestling name, Matt?
So my wrestling name was Matt Champion, which was a play on the name, but also a play on the fact that I was quite good at the sort of technical side of wrestling. I did a bit of MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and things like that. So I was very good at the sort of technical and the sort of the grappling side of things, even though actually when I went to do matches, I never liked to do that because I was like a challenge. So I thought, and the crowd find it boring. You know, no one wants to see a 20-minute armbar fest. So
is it we were kind of talking off air before we started recording, Matt, is it something that you could ever be tempted to do again?
I say I'm going to do it every year. Every year I say I'm going to do it. I've got a promoter about an hour away from me who contacts me about every 6 months saying, are we doing it? Are we doing it? Are we doing it? And I always say yes. But every time it comes around, I've never got the time to get into the shape that I need to get into to do it properly.
Big commitment.
Because like I said, when I left it in the most pathetic standard and the most way I hated it. So if I'm going to go do it right and put it better, I've got to make sure it's properly, which means I'm going to have to train properly and I'm going to have to get the right match and the right story against the right opponent. If all those things fell into place and the missus didn't kick up too much of a stink, because every time I say I'm going to do it, like I was going to go to MMA, I think it was like 3 years ago. Oh, well, it's 2013 now, isn't it? It might have been 6 years ago now. I was going to go do a match in MMA. I got it all lined up. I was going to go up against this Polish kickboxer. And in the training for it, I broke my hand on my darts hand, which is like, that's why I say I'm the Kurt Angle of darts, because I went and won a tournament about 2 weeks after and I didn't realise. So I was
with a broken freaking hand.
Yes, I do exactly that story. Shaking everyone's hand, I'm like, oh, that hurts. And I went to the doctors afterwards. I'm like, look, I've just gone to a tournament. And they're like, oh, you broke your hand. I'm like, oh, fantastic. You know, you have to have all the x-rays and everything. And I'm like, oh, Kurt Angle of darts. That's something I can grip onto. But again, that's wrestling minded. As soon as something goes wrong, you think, how can I twist this to make this a bit of a thing?
Oh man, that is incredible, wow, mate! If you ever get back into it, mate, I know a podcast that would be keen to sponsor you, mate. But Adam, Matt, let's talk a little bit about the current product. I know people, the Raw has gone on this week, Matt. As I'm sure you've watched Raw from this week. As we move into WrestleMania, Matt, what's exciting you about what you've seen? Obviously, this past week on Raw, they advanced the Bloodline story a little bit more. And for those of you that are eagerly watching, for me, the main storyline is definitely Jimmy Uso and Roman Reigns. Clearly, I mean, the matches against Cody, but the story going on behind the Bloodline, which I thought they advanced really well on Raw this week, was incredible. Obviously, we had KO and Sami Zayn. It's official. They're going up against the Usos at WrestleMania, again, announced on Raw this week. Matt, what did you like? What did you not like about what you've seen on Raw this week? Because me and Adam talk about it most weeks when we break it down. It's been pretty good this week, but it always should be good around this time of year because there's more eyes on the product, right?
you can't get it wrong this time of year, can you? Because it's all building towards something else. So I think if they get it wrong this time of year, don't watch anything else, because this is the easy time. In regards to that tag team match, I don't know if you've seen the rumor, but I really hope it's wrong. Is the rumor that night one was going to be headlined by Rhea Ripley?
Apparently it is.
Yeah,
It's going to be, and that's split a lot of people. I know we've got some big listeners on here that are big Rhea Ripley fans. I like the match, I like the concept, but I think if you're going with momentum and what is now and what's on fire, you can't send the fans home with Rhea Ripley holding up the women's title on night one. In my opinion, I don't know, Adam. I don't know what you think, but I think the Usos and KO and Sami Zayn need to headline night one at WrestleMania.
If you look at this, even if you take into consideration that story in its own has been going on for 8 months.
Mm-hmm.
And we're big fans of long-term booking, Andy. We say every week
we are,
love
mate.
the long-term booking. So, in my opinion, that should headline night one, and Roman and Cody will obviously headline night two, no matter what. There was also an interesting video that's been posted of Roman and Solo having a little bit of a row as they walk back up the ramp after the bit with Cody. So, and again, I think we discussed that maybe last week, or before, that there's potential they want to build Solo up to be able to go against Roman in the future. The way they're twisting the J thing, there could be a smokescreen for Solo to try and push you away, because sometimes they try and go down one avenue to lead to another one. So it could be that. But yeah, I think they should headline night one. No doubt. But I got a quick question for Matt, because we were just talking about darts and wrestling, and one of the biggest, and another guy that I want on this podcast, was one of the other names, and because he done it very famously against Phil Taylor, is Paul Nicholson.
He come out to the CM Punk music, didn't he?
Yeah, he channeled CM Punk, sat on the stage, done his leg, and he literally, and he gave an interview afterwards. And ever since then, to be fair, and shamefully for him, it's a bit like Gerwin Price. The crowd just hated him, and then that was played. But have you ever thought, Matt, of bringing like a persona into darts? Or actually, I know that you've done Edgar Mania and all that sort of stuff, but if you could say channel a wrestler to come out, maybe even entrance me, because I know Mervyn King uses Triple H's King of Kings.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Is there sort of a wrestling thing that you'd like to have, and would you channel a wrestler like that, or would you worry about the same kind of thing happening with Paul Nicholson to you?
No, I love what happened with Paul Nicholson. I love what happens with Gerwin Price.
Yeah.
The worst thing for me as a performer in any walk of life, whether it's darts, wrestling, whatever that is people not caring what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't want to walk on stage and no one give a damn, and just it's a game, we can go to, we'll just sit and watch the darts, and the darts take priority, or the show takes priority. I want people to care about what I'm doing. Now, whether that's because they want me to lose and they want to boo the life out of me and they think I'm a bell, that's absolutely fine. Or whether they love what I'm doing, again, that's absolutely fine. You can't please everybody. No one's going to like it whenever you come along off of that line, but you've got to step off of that line for people to care about what you're doing. And then people will go either side of what it is. And Paul Nicholson, great example. There's been some fantastic dart players in the past, and I could sit and reel off names. And this could be a darts podcast, for example, with some hardcore darts fans in it who wouldn't know the names of the people I'm reeling off, but they've played in all the major events. They've been on the TV stages, but no one's going to remember them because they just played darts. Everyone's going to remember a Peter Wright. Yeah. Everyone's going to remember a Paul Nicholson, a Gerwin Price. Gerwin Price is the sort of guy that in 10 years' time, when he's finished and retired, we're going to look back and say, why didn't we enjoy Gerwin Price while he was here? Because he's going to be one of those marquee names that last the test of time within the darting world. And I think this is what darts needs. It needs people to have that mentality to allow them to step off of that line. Not everyone wants to come across as a great guy. Everyone wants to come across as a lovely family, which is great. We can have one of them. Can't have 128 of them. Because we need people to be different and individual. The reason you've picked out those couple of names is because they're different and individual.
Yeah.
There's a reason you're not talking about the other 126. Yeah. There's plenty of players on there with a story to tell, but they don't know how to tell it, or they don't know how to put it across in a way that they're comfortable with without the fear of some form of backlash. I've stood in practice rooms with people backstage, and they'll walk in and they've know who they've drawn. You know, they've been the World Championship and they'll come in, they've drawn like a qualifier. And we're, oh, I can't wait for this. Going to smash him up. They're going to be brilliant. It's a nice, easy game. And then they'll get a camera in the face and it'll be a completely different story. Oh, it's going to be a really good game, this one. He must have done well to get here in the first place. No, tell the people at home what you've just told me, and you'll become relatable to some people and other people will not like it. But either way, they now want either the qualifier to win or they want you to win because they want more of these interviews.
Yeah.
So now people are going to invest in your match, where the only other story besides that is we expect you to win. You're probably going to win. Oh, look, you've won. Let's watch the next game. Gives a reason to want the qualifier to come through. Be a little bit, just be real.
Yeah,
it's a bit like character development, isn't it? In a way, you know what I mean? Like you've got your wrestling character, so he's like you got your darts character. But another question, Matt. This is totally nothing to do with darts now. Back into wrestling was I get asked this quite a bit. Was what was your feeling on Undertaker losing the streak at WrestleMania, and do you think it's taken a bit of speciality away from that particular event when he did lose?
I think he had to lose it.
Really?
I know there's a lot of people that say that could have been the one thing that stayed, but I also understand that no one takes away from wrestling. And all of those people that lost to The Undertaker lost so that somebody would get the payoff at the end of it. I saw recently that Edge refused to take it.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, he turned it down.
Another one they were thinking of was Vladimir Kozlov at the time.
I would have thrown my TV out the window.
Yeah, if that's where they've got to be so careful with who takes it as well and who takes that moment. And you tend to find that as much as we as fans go, what a great opportunity to build somebody up, those big moments go to tried and tested people who can have that. Ric Flair losing, going to Shawn Michaels. You know, did it really benefit Shawn Michaels in any way retiring Ric Flair? But at the same aspect, we don't want a Baron Corbin retiring Kurt Angle, and then you look back in years and go, what happened to Baron Corbin recently? So you tend to find most of those big moments go to already established people, and Lesnar was probably the likely option, and now you'll probably see people get repaid back from that transition through Lesnar. And it's controversial, I know that. It's a complete split decision, but at the same aspect, what was we just talking about? When you come off of that line and you get that split decision, it gives talking points. How many years down the line are we talking about this? But we're not talking about the main event from that year, are we? So
Daniel Bryan,
it did its job.
Daniel Bryan winning the belt. But yeah, Matt, like you mentioned earlier, you were always thinking about wrestling storylines and how you would do things. How are you doing the Bloodline storyline right now? If you're booking WrestleMania, because I've heard some reports today, and like it kind of goes back to what happened on Raw. WWE, I don't think they know who's winning that match at WrestleMania. Is it Roman? Is it Cody? I'm not sure they're ready for him to drop the belt yet. I've said personally, if it was me, if I'm booking it, I'm keeping the belt on Roman till the Raw after WrestleMania. I'm giving it one more night. And I know everyone's saying, well, WrestleMania is the main place to drop it. Nah, I'm making people want to tune into that Raw after WrestleMania. I know they do anyway. I'm dropping the belt the night after. I mean, Adam thinks he might get to, is it 1,000 ads? You're saying 1,000 days? There might be there. Matt, what would you do, and how would you book it if you were booking WrestleMania and beyond?
Looking at it from I love the Cody Rhodes story. I followed it from him leaving WWE. I've loved his journey. I find it very inspirational in what he's done. And I loved it when he came back. I want him to take the belt. But at the same aspect, if anyone is ever going to break the 1,000, they're not going to do this again. No one's going to go on this run like Roman Reigns has with a belt. He's the closest anyone's going to get to the 1,000-day break. And if you're going to do it, it's now or never. I think they've teased it a little bit. There's been some little lines that come in promos. The one that really stands out for me is when he laid the belts across the ring. And he goes, have you even had a match for one of these before? That line was so hard hitting to me because it was instantly Cody Rhodes is an underdog. We're all thinking he's going to go win this match, but he's never had a world title match in his life. And Roman Reigns reminded us of that fact, which again, that moment just planted that seed of doubt and then made me think, like you say, the 1,000-day. There's people saying about maybe SummerSlam. Yourself mentioning the Raw after. These are all things like WWE thinking outside the box and changing with the times, like we said at the very start of this. those sort of things would then start, because the eyes might not be on the product like they are at WrestleMania, but it won't take long for social media to grab hold of it, and you go through a different platform. If imagine if like someone dropped a belt on a live show, it wouldn't go unnoticed. It'd probably go more noticed than if someone dropped a belt on Raw, because it'd be so different that, let's say, social media and all the media outlets would grab hold of it, and you'd soon find out all about it.
It's happened before. Diesel beat Bob Backlund on a house show for the title.
And there was footage of it as well.
Yeah, there was footage of it.
Yeah,
Yes.
no camera phones.
Yeah, no, it has. It's happened before. I mean, I'm just super. I mean, me and Adam mentioned this on every show. I'm super interested to see where they go with this bloodline. But Matt, outside of the bloodline storyline, what's intriguing you about WWE at the minute? And obviously the build up to WrestleMania. Obviously, you've got the KO and Sammy. That's kind of tied into the bloodline. You've got John Cena, he's coming back at WrestleMania. You've got Edge fighting at Hell in a Cell. You've mentioned the women's match there. Obviously, you've got both the Raw and SmackDown women's matches going on. What else outside the main? Obviously, that bloodline storyline's been going on since 2020. But what else are you really excited about seeing in just over a week now to WrestleMania?
Love Trish Stratus, Attitude Era fan.
So. She looks better with age, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Keeps going. Yeah, I like that one. Edge for me is like, well, just so we go in price, is one of the people who look back and say we enjoy. But the thing is, we all know that Edge has not got long, and with that, I think everything Edge does, I'm just really enjoying. Like, I went to Clash at the Castle, and when Edge's match was on, it was like the atmosphere in there was incredible, because everyone thought this might be the last time we see Edge in the UK live. And every time he goes into a match, it's always, this might be the last match. And when we talk earlier, when I said, like, when you stop wrestling, you think of 30 different stories and you do all these different things. Edge is a guy who's clearly gone down that road as well, because his level has shot through the roof on this second run. Not saying his first run was bad, he was a quality talent, but everything, even down to when Dominic Mysterio gave him that low blow, the facials, that sell, everything is just so crisp and elite that you hope he stays around to sort of guide other people with wrestling afterwards. And I'm really looking forward to that match with Finn Balor. Great opportunity for Finn Balor as well, who sort of, if he didn't get that injury, what would Finn Balor have been? You know, he came in, took the Universal title, got the injury, and then never really got a second look in. This could be the moment where he puts himself back onto the map as well. So I think that's going to be a big match for both.
Yeah, no, I'm the only Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania is always good. I've still got visions of Shane McMahon falling off the top of the cell a couple of years ago. But Adam, just before we get out of here, mate, you got anything else?
I know. I'll touch on from that. It's obviously Demon Finn.
Yes.
Remember, it's not going to be Finn Balor. It'll be
Demon Finn.
Potentially against some kind of brood version of Edge. Yeah. Which is going to be interesting to see. And obviously, you go back to Hell in a Cell, and my last WrestleMania I went to was the end of an era Hell in a Cell, which was
Undertaker and Shawn Michaels.
It was my fifth WrestleMania and my final one at the minute. But we are going to the Royal Rumble in January. Andy.
We are indeed. The boys are there. We are at the Rumble.
But I think, Andy, we need to just reel off. Oh, first off, before we reel off our stuff, Matt, tell everybody where they can get you and what you've got going on at the minute.
I'm literally probably the busiest man in the world at the moment, especially when it comes to darts. I'm going on a tour over in Holland, Belgium, and then I'm back down in Portsmouth again doing commentary. I'm over to Iceland. I'm all over the place at the moment. But if you are interested in following my journey, my main place that I hang out is Twitter at the Edgar 501. I've also got my own YouTube channel as well, where I sort of mostly darts, but also a lot of video diaries and different bits on there. So some of these journeys that I'm going on, like say the Iceland and Belgium and Holland and all these different places, they're going to be documented on there. And I will be making my return to actually playing on the TV at the end of April. That's going to be on Sporty Stuff. So you have to catch up on 427.
So you're going to Q School next year?
At the moment, the plan is no.
Oh.
I was going to, but now I'm doing work with
Mhm.
BT Sport, BBC, doing commentary on that side of things. If I go and get a tour card, you're then contracted to the PDC, which means you
Yes.
cannot work for
Yes.
other broadcasters. And at the moment, the future's quite exciting for me. So I don't want to cut off certain areas of the sport. And at the
Yes.
moment, just keeping everything open. I mean, we're in March at the moment. Q School's not till January next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
In sport, 2 months is a big difference in terms of time frame. It could be different conversation in 2 months' time. It could be a different conversation completely in a year. So at the moment, I'm just leaving everything wide open.
That's fair. No, that's fair. I think that's good. It's good. It's a good thing to do. Yeah, because obviously you've got the seniors as well. I mean, not that you're old enough to go in the seniors, but those tournaments, you got those tournaments to go. Yeah, there's other tournaments and stuff to do. But Andy, I'm going to just do the quick rundown of guests, and then I think I'm going to leave the big one to you today because it's kind of your thing. So tomorrow we've got obviously Fiona from Inside the Ropes coming on just to chat all things Inside the Ropes, some sobriety and some Scottish independent wrestling. Oh, and NWA. Have you got your notes?
I've made some, mate. Yeah, I'm going to watch some more tonight. I'm going to, it's very hard to get NWA coverage over here. It's mainly YouTube, shall we say.
We'll have to ask her about that. So we got to do that. And then next week we have Melina, the WWE, the 5-time Divas champion, coming on the week before WrestleMania, which is nice. That's going to be our Wednesday entertainment next week. And then the Monday after WrestleMania. So we've got a podcast after WrestleMania. Hey, we can run with that, right?
Yeah.
There's no legal things to say that we can't. We've got Eric Rowan, or Eric Redbeard now. So he's going to come and review the WrestleMania with us, give us a bit more of an insight into what it's like being in the WWE at that time of year as well, which I can imagine is, even when I used to go, I needed a month to recover and I wasn't even performing. But we did announce something a couple of hours ago, Andy, and I'm going to leave it to you today.
We did, my friend. The Hit in the Turnbuckle podcast is partnered up with Ignite Wrestling Pro. We have got an event named after our podcast. Buckle Up is happening on July the 23rd. It's Ignite Wrestling Pro, the Hit in the Turnbuckle podcast. We are putting on an independent wrestling show. Matt, if you're in the country on July the 23rd, you've got your YouTube camera with you, mate. Come down, we'll get you in. It's gonna be an incredible event. CJ Carter, a good friend of ours, and the promoter of Ignite Wrestling Pro, he's gonna be booking an amazing card. We are partnered up with them. July the 23rd, Sunday, July the 23rd. Buckle up. It's going to be a great wrestling event. I don't think any podcast has ever done anything like this before. That's why we say all the time, we're more than just a podcast. It's going to be held in Bournemouth over here in the UK. Literally flabbergasted by, I can sit here and say that, we've got a pay-per-view, quote unquote, named after our podcast. So yeah, buckle up. July the 23rd. Tickets and all the information we put on our social media then. And there's going to be something even cooler that I can't say that we are going to be doing at that event, which is going to be... event? They're announcing it at that event.
Right,
it's going to be incredible. Another little bow to our belt there, little clue for you.
And just quickly, Andy, sorry, we need to shout out our current sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
So Corey McRae, British independent wrestler, who will be wrestling on the 9th of April at our premium partners at Jurassic Pro Wrestling. Will be there to witness their White Rabbit event. I always say nothing to do with Bray Wyatt, unfortunately, but it's going to be a good event for those guys. And also our other partners at Pro Wrestling Carnage, who have a show on Sunday over in Wales with my favorite tag team, as we already know now, Beers and Beatdowns. That is just absolutely
honestly, Matt, he's obsessed with these boys.
The shirt is coming. I'm hoping it's going to be here tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll get here tomorrow so I can wear it on the podcast. As we're going to give them a special shout out tomorrow. We're going to send them a special shout out for their event. They've also got another one, Andy, that I read today. They've got a tag team named after a bowling thing. One of them's called Splits McPins. But
Blitz
again,
McPins.
fantastic. But yeah, good luck to those guys on Sunday. We'll obviously do a private shout out to them later that they'll play on the event. But big thanks to those guys. Obviously, huge thanks to Ignite to coming along with this. And like you say, we'll have an announcement at that event that's going to take it up a little bit of a notch, so to speak.
Oh, another clue. I see what you've done there. Yeah, you can find, if you want to watch this, it's on the Sports Carnage YouTube page. This will be uploaded there. Munzie will get that up there. But Matt, honestly, thanks so much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on our show. Keep in touch. We wish you well with absolutely everything. And I can't wait to see you back in that wrestling ring, mate. Let's make it happen. Life's too short, like you told us, Matt. Let's make it happen. There's Buckle Boys will be there to support you.
I'll be there. It's going to happen. It's going to. It has to. It's just when. I think that's the main thing. And I can say that now because the missus ain't in shot. So
yes.
I can say it's going to. It is. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, no, well, it did whisper it quietly, but Matt is going to be coming back into the wrestling ring. Make sure you go and check us out on all social media. You can find us on Twitter at HTT Buckle. You can find us on Facebook. Just search Hitting the Turnbuckle Podcast. You can find us on there. Go and follow Matt. But we are back tomorrow with another. We've got Trixie from Inside the Ropes joining us. Probably the biggest wrestling magazine in, if not the UK, in the world. I love it. So it's a great subscription. Yeah. So me and Adam will be back tomorrow. Matt, thanks so much, mate. Honestly, wish you all the success with everything you're doing. I'm gonna go and we're gonna go and check out your YouTube channel, mate. Whether it's darts, whether it's broadcasting, whatever you're gonna do, mate. You do come across as the kind of guy that once you put your mind to it, mate, you're gonna make it happen. But we enjoy WrestleMania. It'll be good. We'll interact on social media during it, after it, to see what you think, mate. But keep doing what you're doing, my friend. And me and Adam, I know we wish you all the luck for the future, mate.
We do.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
No worries. This has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I've been your host, Andy Burrows, with my good friend Adam Cousins. Till next time, everybody, stay safe.